brain treatment was given to you. You are a robot, that's all you are. Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10,
Better not change your mind. You just better not.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Tangents, the only show on the internet that talks about music and celebrates Wookiee Life Day. Happy Wookiee Life Day, everybody. My name is Andrew. I'm from X Studios in beautiful sunny Cleveland, Ohio. With me tonight is always the incorrigible Christoph, the beautiful Jeff, and the sexy Justin. And that's all I got to say about that. Christoph, how are you? How are you doing? What's new and exciting?
I'm doing very well. I DJ'd my first convention last Saturday. Had a big crowd. I was just telling everybody that I had a problem with the stage shook so much it caused my controller to slow down, and I had to figure out that if I lifted it up, it went away, and if I put a towel underneath it, the problem went away. So otherwise, that was very stressful because there were a lot of people watching and wondering why the music is getting weird. But I'm glad I found a solution.
That's awesome. I'm glad you found a solution as well. Cool. What do you have coming up soon? You have your show tomorrow night?
My next, I do Spike Club tomorrow night and every Thursday, and then my next live gig is going to be December 10th.
Awesome.
Brooklyn.
Exciting. So if you're in the Brooklyn area, or New York in general, or New Jersey, or even parts of Pennsylvania, or, wherever you are, just go to fucking Brooklyn.
Or if you have a Millennium Falcon.
Flying from
why not?
Dallas.
Yeah, flying from Dallas.
Fuck it. Christoph, thanks for the host.
My pleasure.
Cool. Jeff, how are you celebrating Life Day this year?
I am alive in
We
celebration
appreciate
of it.
that.
I figured that was the best way to show my appreciation for it, just life. I am celebrating by continuing streaming. I started DJing again, but doing it online, which has been cool. I streamed last night and one the week before, and nothing broke, and that was exciting. In other exciting news, I am celebrating this day and every day by continuing to make no changes to this mess behind me.
job.
It's been very exciting. I'm good. Except I did put a skin on an NPC. I don't know if that counts, but that was something.
Heck, yeah.
You okay?
That's just tinker.
Yeah.
That's cosmetic.
It's just fidgeting with it. Yeah, it's nothing major.
Well, cool. I'm glad you're doing the DJ sets. I need to come in and irritate everybody on one of those and make dick jokes.
Yeah, come.
Right?
That's what we're there for.
That's
Come
what
on
people do
in.
on our stream. So why not help it out?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you're doing that. I need to make sure that I shout you out then, so that way folks know to follow you. So folks should follow Jeff, because he's doing some crazy goth, industrial, whatever the fuck you feel like playing DJ sets. There we go. So follow him, Wombro, especially you dig his stuff.
Stuff. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. I need to get better at shouting people out. I forget to do that. I do mostly just playing of music and not very much talking, but I should do the shouting.
Yeah, when I DJ, I don't
It's
hook
a lot
up.
to do at the same.
What's that, Christoph? I'm sorry.
It's a lot to do at the same time. It's hard to remember to do that because you're juggling three things. So yeah, I find it really hard. It's really helpful if you have a moderator do it for you.
Yeah, when I do the DJ thing, I usually don't use a microphone at all because because then I'll just talk the entire time. Just give me a microphone and I won't shut the fuck up. So, so cool.
Well, people like that.
Yeah, well, that's good for this, but sometimes I gotta let the music speak, man. I don't know. I know people like the interactivity and everything like that. That's cool. Justin, what's going on in your world?
And well, doing projects and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, some music related, some not. In the music world, working on this weird sort of side project right now. Got a couple tracks deep on it, so we'll see. And started maybe writing a track for the next Subsoma album.
Sweet.
And, yeah, so we'll see. And yeah, and non-music related stuff. I'm learning to write C64 assembly using Turbo Macro Pro in aid of making a Commodore 64 text adventure game.
Wow.
That's
Because I
cool.
like to eat nails for breakfast. I'm not even using
no
a
one can
cross.
challenge your nerd card, huh?
Yeah, I'm not even using a cross assembler. I'm going straight to the Turbo Macro.
Grrr. Daddy.
I know.
I cannot express how impressed I am with that. No, really. I always wanted to learn assembler programming, and like when I was 13, and it was just way above my brain capacity at the time. And so I really admire that, because assembler programming is the hardcore programming.
Yeah,
And to do anything really good on a Commodore 64, you have to get into assembly.
yeah. For my graduate program, I had to do system engineering and took one assembly, X32 or now X64 assembly for modern processors, and that was fun and challenging. But this is even worse. I actually went and bought the original programming guide from like 1982 from the Commodore because it's like the best reference for how that stuff works.
Wow.
And, thank you to that person on eBay who had no idea what the value was of it and sold it for like $30.
Good deal. Wow. Well,
How about you, Andrew? What do you have?
well,
to do?
I look forward to. I'm sitting here looking forward to playing this text adventure game on my Commodore 64 that I don't have.
Well, you can use the emulator, man. I'll send you a free copy of it.
All right,
Oh, it's
perfect.
free. So.
Yeah, I dig that. I totally want to play this game now, and while listening to Subsoma in the background, because that's how this works. Cool,
Well, if I could figure out how to do it on a SID chip, I'd write the whole album on it. You could just.
right? If you can find SID chips.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I played 2 shows last weekend in Pittsburgh that went questionably okay. I only ended up playing for 15 minutes each night because I kind of freaked out because I'm not used to playing in front of people, and that's weird after playing in front of people for like 20 years or some shit like that, and then nothing. So that's something new I have to get over.
Did you imagine they were naked?
No, I didn't.
It makes it
I
much
didn't
creepier.
need to.
Yeah, when I see people in Chicago, I just imagine that they're vaccinated. That's all I really.
Well, everyone there was vaccinated, so they actually had to
I know, I'm
provide
just
proof of
teasing.
vaccination and everything like that. But no, I don't know. It was just like a bout of imposter syndrome hit me really hard both nights, like 10 minutes in, and I'm like,
It sucks.
yeah.
dude.
So I just stopped. Luckily, everyone there is, Justin, you've been to that art show before.
Yeah.
Everyone there was very chill and laid back, and they still appreciated it and everything like that. And they didn't like give me a hard time or anything.
Man, they let me sleep on their couch before we did a show there.
That's right.
I remember a giant bookcase, and I was reading some really interesting book about whether or not Jesus was a real person and whether he was invented by Josephus. And I passed the fuck out for like an hour and a half and woke up and did a
Yep.
show.
That is the meaning of rock and roll lifestyle right there.
Right. Now it is you bring up a good question though. I mean, not to get too tangential already, but they've had nights here. They've had they did Nocturna here in Chicago. I didn't go, but I'm just like not even sure how I'm going to deal with groups of more than a few people, like in a CVS.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got my booster, and I think a number of you may have already, and I'm feeling pretty confident from a safety perspective. But now I've just got this kind of social awkwardness fear,
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that likes to chat with Uber drivers, and now I'm like afraid to talk to anybody. It's terrible.
No, and I think that's the thing, right? Is like I chatted fine with the folks when I wasn't performing, but it was the performing part that made me fucking like clam up.
Interesting.
That's very funny, Justin, because I never talk to anybody. I am the person who desperately tries to avoid human contact in public, and now more people have gotten like that. So I have tickets to go to a show on the 21st or the 20th. I can't remember. Maybe it's Sunday, but I'm actually like feeling pretty good about it because I think the social distancing and all of the sort of general social awkwardness that's popped up over the last 2 years is going to play to my advantage.
So you're saying it's made everybody a low-key introvert, so now you're in a...
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, now I can just like sit there and ignore everybody. It'd be wonderful.
Oh my god.
You'll feel comfortable.
Well, I wouldn't take it that far, but I will feel better.
Oh my god.
Wow. No, it was just kind of bizarre. And it was interesting because I went last week. I went to a talk at my local community library, because that's the rock and roll lifestyle as well. And the person that was doing the talk was so awkward and so like jittery and stuff like that I actually left. And I wonder if they were like that before the pandemic.
I know, man. We're all some damaged folks.
I know,
man.
right? I know.
It's
Welcome
not
to our
good.
trauma. This collective
Right.
worldwide trauma that we're going through, and how are we going to deal and fix this? Ourselves as well as like in the world in general.
Well, during the pandemic, I learned I was much more introverted than I realized. So the introversion thing hasn't bothered me at all. For me, it's been I've noticed a real decline in my executive function. I think the anxiety, doom scrolling, and lack of schedule just got me, addicted to dopamine in a way that it's really hard for me to perform difficult, unrewarding tasks.
Interesting.
And that's the thing. I feel like, so I'll have to reschedule when I'm going to do hard things to do that in the morning, so I don't do rewarding things later to try to break that dopamine overindulgence that I've had to calm anxiety.
Interesting.
And I think this kind of effect has been something that a lot of people have been going through. And I think we're going to find it's one of the massive side effects from the pandemic is everybody having ADHD-like symptoms.
And
that serotonin dopamine imbalance may have caused you to freeze up in front of a large crowd, which normally probably would have been pleasurable for you, and now anxiety.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. I don't consider myself introverted, but I definitely have severe Peter Pan syndrome, so I can always find something to play with and tinker with. And so it's like, it's allowed me to sort of pursue those interests in some ways. On the other hand, I would say until recently, my creativity was like in the toilet. So there's that too.
Wow. Well,
You released a great album
Yeah.
recently.
in spite
thanks.
of that, you still managed to push through and make that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It happens in fits and starts, I guess it's not too different than normal for most people, but because like my favorite ever was an interview with Buddy Rich, the famous jazz drummer. They asked him, hey Buddy, you're like the greatest player ever. Do you practice all day? He's like, nah, I sit in front of the TV and I eat fucking pizza and I play when I feel like it. That's kind of how I am. I'm not very disciplined, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, for what we do we need to be that disciplined to do this stuff?
No, I don't think so.
Because we
Well, no, because we're
right, we do this for fun. We do it because we love doing it. We're not doing, we know that
That's
we're
right.
not making a living off of it because Cherry Audio still hasn't sponsored us.
We need to be the in-house Cherry Audio.
I know, right? So
Speaking of which, I'm going to kick that thing off. I know I probably should have talked about it in the pre-show, but I came in a little bit late. I'm going to start that ball rolling, man. We're going to get
we
it.
do the house band,
Four of us.
the Tangents house band.
We're gonna come up with Tangents theme,
Nice.
man. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna lay down some tracks and I'm gonna send them to Christoph because he's got to do the cool, wicked percussion stuff, and then he can forward it on to you and then Joe.
All right, just give me a tempo.
Yeah, sure. No, what I'll do, man, is I'll tell you. I'll write a bunch of specs and I'll send you the stems, man.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to this. The love theme from Tangents will be fantastic.
Yeah, I've never written a bass line first without anything else, so this is going to be interesting. You have to write around me.
Or
I
should
mean, you
give
could
some
also-
drums and then you can write a bass line around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do the percussion first, go for it.
All right, I'll send you a drum line.
Sweet.
And I'll form the head.
Yeah, this is some Voltron shit right here,
Right.
man. Let's do it.
You heard that, robots. I think that
We're coming
Now-
for you.
I've been listening to a lot of Wu-Tang. I mean, I always listen to a lot of Wu-Tang, but I've been listening to a lot of Wu-Tang lately.
Nice.
I really want a Wu-Tang Voltron crossover. I actually think that Wu-Tang would do a Voltron crossover.
I absolutely think Wu-Tang would do
Well,
it.
Did you ever watch Afro Samurai? Because RZA did all the music for that.
Yeah.
That was one of
No,
my
no, no.
favorites.
To be clear, I do mean where the Wu-Tang Clan
forms Voltron.
are the Voltron pilots that form Voltron.
Right.
Oh,
That's what.
I
That's
think you
where I was
might
thinking you were going with that too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I like a live action, like what are those? Like what are those?
Oh,
one of
they
those-
could be anime. They could be animated. I don't have a strong perspective. I just think
It would definitely have to be animated, but they would voice it.
Yeah.
if
as
it would be
would,
Well, Old Dirty,
so
Bastard-
good.
Old Dirty
like
Bastard's dead.
some
So
commands, but who's just like in the beginning and the end just says 2 sentences. Bill Murray.
yeah, there you go.
Well, I'm trying to figure out because there's like what 10 members of Wu-Tang.
Yeah, well, you need the main. You need like Method Man, Ghostface Killer.
No, you need all of them
RZA. You
because we just need to. You just need to like we need to come up with a Voltron that they can form with using 10 people.
yeah, you're gonna have to break it down into smaller components.
No, because they
if
had
it's
they,
Well, remember there were 2 Voltrons. One was with the lines, but the other one was all the cars. And that one had much.
yeah,
more
that one has like
components, so it
20
has to be
people in that Voltron, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who forms the joint? Like which one? Which
That's the
one?
blazing sword. Like literally, it's the blazing sword.
It's going to be a dope joint, Jeff. So the whole thing's
Right?
fine.
Oh man, we should just like scrap the rest of the show and just write the pilot for this today.
Yeah,
Wu-Tang
I'm okay
Voltron.
with that.
All right, so I'm just going to throw away the show notes here for tonight, and we're going to discuss Wu-Tang Voltron.
RZA, if you're listening,
Yeah,
that just like skip guided meditations #2 and go straight into
Yeah.
Voltron.
if you can just get Spielberg on the other horn,
Right?
we'll do this, or yeah, whoever
Steve
you want.
Masek. Wait, that's Robotech. Never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am not a films and television person, so I couldn't give you any feedback there.
At some point,
Sorry about this, Lumbra.
look, you
We'll
were
talk about synth news eventually.
yeah, but you were an '80s kid, Jeff. So I know you had to have watched Voltron.
Oh yeah, I just don't know who did
yeah,
what
yeah.
with anything. Like in terms of like who the good filmmakers were, or who the producers of this stuff was. I just consume just voraciously,
Fair
just
enough.
like it's popcorn. That was my
Yeah.
'80s experience.
Lots of consumerism.
Yeah.
Wait, Andrew, I'll shut the hell
Why?
up and yield my time to you. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting like crazy tangential. We haven't even talked about any
Well,
news.
I thought that was a show of this.
Thank you for subscribing.
Yeah, SynthLab. Thanks for the subscription. Oh, SynthLab is talking about the D. So if Robin shows up tonight, we have to talk about how much she's been enjoying the D lately. Because she's been doing a lot of streams with the Deluge, and so we've been calling it the D, and yeah, it's just
thought you were talking about a D-beam.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
sit down, Christoph, sit down.
Oh wow! I don't think those Kiwis are gonna support us now, man. I think we ruined it.
Yeah, possibly. So speaking of synthesizer news, here we go. The Deluge would be better with a D-beam, SynthLab says. No, nothing's better with a D-beam. I still don't quite understand what the fuck the D-beam is for. especially the one on my guitar.
For when you just got to do a bunch of this in front of your synthesizer.
It's for when I need to have an attack.
Well, I don't know, just map it to your filter cutoff and be a badass. And you're...
Yeah, thank you, Wambra. Wambra says the D-beam was never routed to anything cool or able to.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Roland came up with the idea of the D-beam and stuck it on everything, and then one day they just stopped.
Yeah. Somewhere there's a giant factory in Hokkaido with like, you know, stacks and stacks of
right
DVDs,
next to like the precursor to Roland Zen and the unused era stuff. And
yeah, I think
they're buried in
exactly
the
in the garbage dump. Yep.
Oh, for sure. I think they turned the D-beams into like 1950s ENIAC style computers, and that's how they built the cloud manager for the Apple, because that thing is the worst fucking software I've used since like 1997.
Oh my God. Well, I'm looking forward to getting to the point where we talk about Roland news, which we will be talking about. A couple pieces of Roland news. Oh boy. So first off, is the Bitwig update that came out not too long ago. So Bitwig is now at 4.1, and they released a free update if you are a Bitwig subscriber, so kind of free. They give you some new Note FX devices, some updated ones. They updated some of the instruments. They give you some new color palettes. They finally give you direct MIDI output. Thanks, guys. And the hardware instrument device is still available when you need delay compensation, which most of the time you do. So yeah, Bitwig continuing to develop their stuff. Nothing like groundbreaking in this update, but at least some stuff that makes quality of life a little bit better when you're working on things. And some of the new note devices like Ricochet is actually kind of cool. We just introduced like the bouncing ball kind of algorithm and stuff like that for doing effects, like note effects and stuff like that. It's for like delays and stuff. So that's kind of cool. So hats off to you guys. I know Justin and I used Bitwig for a hot minute.
Yeah, I don't use it. You know, I read about it every now and then. It you know, it's one of those things where like you got to pick the DAW that fits you, what you want to do with it. I could see this working into a workflow, into, you know, I think though it's kind of like Ableton, where I feel like you got to be kind of all in. Mm-hmm. Where I think some of the multi-purpose like Logic and Studio One and even Cubase, you know, I feel like they're kind of like same-ish, you know, in terms of they've got details that are different, but the overall workflow is same-ish. And, you know, Ableton and Bitwig and the stuff is a little disruptive, and not in a bad way or anything.
Yeah, it really is the DAW conceiving of itself as sort of like a traditional music studio environment, which is really what I think, you know, to your point, Studio One and Cubase and Logic and Pro Tools and all sort of do. They sort of go, here's your mixing console, and here's your instruments, and here's the tape that you record to, and here's some effects that you can put on them. But they don't really have a strong perspective, I guess, on how you use it or what it's meant to do. Like, record some shit, I guess, and make some music. But Ableton and Bitwig definitely have they've kind of got an axe to grind insofar as how you operate with the system.
Sure.
Goes.
I think that like things like Ableton and even Bitwig to a slightly lesser extent are more a DAW as an instrument kind of idea.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I mean, even their terminology, and I know the last show I was being snarky about terminology like drizzle and goop and stuff, but they have some of that in here, and that's fine. They got to appeal to, you know, to the young folks.
Absolutely.
But, you know, to me, like, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mean. It's kind of like Fruity Loops was like that, or FL Studio now. It's like if you were, it was a different kind of thing, you know, and it's crazy successful. I mean, I don't know how popular it is in professional context because I just don't know, but tons of people use FL Studio, and do really good stuff with it. So I'm sure this is the same, and I'm sure lots of people make great music with it, and will probably continue to. And I like having a diversity of DAWs for people wanting to do different things.
And people think differently, and they write differently, and they create differently, and having those options out there where it's more than just a timeline and a mixer and stuff like that, I think is very important. Just like I keep on going off about like, using other non-standard interfaces than a keyboard and stuff like that to write with. It's the same kind of thing with your DAW as well.
Yeah. I mean, think about when you and I got started using DAWs, you could use Pro Tools, which was prohibitively expensive. Then you had Cubase and Cakewalk. I mean, you had a handful of choices and they all were real the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So hats off to Bitwig. And those are I think that Bitwig was started by some former Ableton engineers as well. And you can kind of tell if you've played with Bitwig that it has some similar interface styles and stuff like that.
See.
Although more DAWs are looking more Ableton-y and stuff like that, like when Logic added like the track Mangler view, whatever they call that. It's similar kind of like the default views in Ableton and in Bitwig as well.
Yeah, I tried to use Light for about 6 months, mostly because Ableton was like the AOL of DAWs. Like every piece of software you came with had Ableton Light. like. So eventually you try it and you're like, eh.
Yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I lasted about 2 weeks with it. I'm like, I lasted longer with Bitwig 3. Yeah. We did the RPM challenge using just Bitwig that one time.
Yeah. And I think it's cool. I think it's pretty.
It was great.
It's just but I don't have time to learn.
Yeah. Well, it was fun because it was great, but the things that it didn't do so badly. It was like, oh, fuck this thing. Like,
well, we were doing something.
We were trying to create loop points.
To line up loop points.
And loop points were just a fucking nightmare to create on that in Bitwig. And it's very I use loop points a lot when I'm writing, and just being able to do it quickly and in Logic or in Reason or even like in Studio One and stuff like that. But Bitwig was just like, oh, pain. It's those little things, because it wasn't like a big deal. It's just putting my mouse in the wrong spot, but it wasn't logical, and so it was just wanting to burn the thing with fire. So anyway, Bitwig update. If you're a Bitwig user, go grab your update. If you're not a Bitwig user and you want to use Bitwig, I think you can get a free trial for a little bit, and it is a subscription-based system, so make with that what you will. Our good friends over at Roland, who also will probably never, ever sponsor our show, have introduced 2 new boutiques. And we thought that the boutique layout and infrastructure was dead. But they surprised us by releasing the JD08 and the JX08 in the boutique size.
We were laughing about making the JD800
We really
boutique
were.
after they released the cloud version of it. We're like, what's next, guys? They're gonna make a boutique of it.
Look what they did.
They did.
Yeah. It's too bad Waldorf doesn't make these. They could redo the Waldorf Wave,
I know, right?
boutique. You could fit even more sliders into like 5 square inches. It would be fantastic.
Or they do the the boutique microwave, and it's literally just a big red knob and nothing else.
Nice.
So yeah, the JD08, for those that remember the JD800, the synth that's just like, surprise, all sliders, just kind of like the Hans Zimmer string collection that just came out really lately from, that's really just French horns. Surprise, just French horns. Anyway.
That's the only one.
Yeah, all of them. So yeah, the beautiful JD800, they miniaturized, got rid of about 80% of the sliders, so there's only 50 on this thing, and they made it the size of a shoe. And I would imagine that the throw on those sliders is so ridiculous, it's not even funny. and you probably need to use chopsticks to move it up and down because it's that teeny tiny.
The throw on the JP08 slider is a centimeter.
Exactly.
Well, I will say this, though. If you look at them real close, and I've owned and sold 4 of these boutiques over the years, look at the buttons. They've got like some texturized material. It looks like they've got an upgrade on the buttons. Yep. Even the knobs look like they're probably better material. The screen looks a little bit better. I don't know. They've gussied this thing.
Yeah, it looks like they're using OLEDs on the screen.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's meant to look like a 7-segment.
No, they're probably just using the same garbage, but
digital. Yeah.
But it's the sliders, and Wambra says the slant with the button section. There's a shout out to the old version of it, but those sliders, they're so small. It's like how you can't dial in anything remotely precise on this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the JX08, same deal. I mean they've got the same cool upgraded buttons, probably better feel. I haven't touched these things, but I'm just gauging by looking at it. That's a little bit more reasonable. But I mean, the larger question is, so obviously I'm a rolling cloud person, so I use the software versions of these. And Jeff, I saw your comment, in where you were like, "Hey, I don't know if." These are using ACB. They're probably totally not. And if they were, they probably would have released them as plug outs for the System 8, and they didn't. And so that's my next complaint is like, what are you doing here? If you're not going to make, that's what was cool before about the Aero stuff is that you had the System 8, you could plug out all of those synths into that, right? And you had a big control surface that wasn't very heavy and had lots of surface area. And it was really cool because it would light up actually, like if you put in like a Pearl Mars, it would, the fairly ugly, extremely ugly green backlights would show you which controls were valid and which weren't based on that synth. They could have done something similar, or for crying out loud, Roland, they just can't stop stepping on their own feet. I mean, they could release an even slightly bigger version, like the Korg size stuff, right? Like the OP6 or something.
Right.
And it would be badass. Like, why are they making these friggin' toys? Are they just trying to keep the price point low? Like, I mean, I live in a small apartment. Obviously, I don't respect that. Look at the shit I got. But, for what, what is this for? I had them and it was cool, but I was like, I can't do this. I'm too blind. I'm too old. I got too big of hands. It's not going to work.
Well, I was wondering if they were. I mean, these, because they're digital synths, not being ACB, totally makes sense. But I was also wondering, are they Zen Core? And they make no mention of Zen Core either.
They're not, because I know for a fact because they have Zen Core equivalents that came out before these came out. So they might be, but they just rebranded it, and we never know.
It's just weird to me. But at least in terms of usability, the JX08 looks like the face layout is very akin to the SH01A or JU06A.
Yep.
Which I have both of those, and they're, I mean, like, they would be better if they were larger, and also they're totally fine.
Sure. Yeah. No, the stuff sounds great, and I don't know. I just wish they would come up with like a flagship. And I know everyone's gonna be like, well, go get the Jupiter X or the Jupiter XM. And I bet you could probably run all this stuff, but that's all Zen Core driven. And I don't know if I want to jump on that. In the side to side comparisons, especially for virtual analog, pretty much everybody. There's a guy named Mr. Tuna, and if you've seen him, he's this Canadian guy who has crazy synth layout. But he did some interesting compares of the Jupiter X M, I think, versus the System 8. And if you're trying to do analog emulation, I think ACB is still better technology. It's much more CPU greedy for sure, but
yeah, I feel that these are both like great if you just wanted to have the sounds on there and you're going to use like something external to program these things. One of the things that I'm noticing also is that they got rid of on these boutiques, they got rid of the mod wheel and the pitch bend. And those are still not available on the goofy little keyboard that you can attach these things to.
The mod wheel and pitch bend, I had to look to see, but they're not on the Juno either.
Because they are on the
Yeah, I don't think they're.
Wonderful sounding, but completely useless in other regard. DO5. As you can see, yeah, they got the little.
Oh, they got the sliders. Yeah.
Yeah, the SHO1A has them too.
Now, granted, there's not much any, like, you don't really need to control anything on the DO5, except pitch and
Right.
mod, because this thing,
Just
because
needs an
there's
up and a
zero
down
interface
button
on this
for the
thing. Look
preset.
at, oh Jesus!
No, the only reason to use a D50 is for the Fantasia
For my Enya
patch,
covers,
and
yeah.
that's good to go. Yeah.
Christoph, what are your thoughts?
Actually, I disagree. The D50 has, if you get into programming it, you can do a real lot with it.
I know. I'm being sarcastic, man. I'm sorry.
But the thing is, the D50 is not easy to program without a programmer. You really need a computer, and that's going to be true for the D05 as well. So it with the LA synthesis engine. As long as you get your partials out and you take the envelopes off, you can make really great pads and drones. One of my favorite and most influential bands on me is a band called Gridlock. Their first two albums, they're all D50.
Really?
And what they did with it amazed me.
Yeah, Gridlock is fucking insane. I did not realize they were just using a D50 for all that. Holy shit.
It's a D50. I think it's like some cheap sampler because their envelopes are just basically on-off for their drums. But yeah, all that stuff, that's D50. Wow. It's like by mixing together those partials. And that's what, because I've mentioned this before. I had a chance to pick up a D50 for like nothing years ago. And I turned it down because like all I could cared about was like, the MIDI latency on that is like, 50 milliseconds. That's too slow. I'm never getting that. And I regret it because I now realize what a great engine that is. Even though I've got the JV1010, which is a similar engine and can do more, but still I should have gotten it and I didn't. And I regret it. But especially after I learned what, Gridlock did with it. So I went into a music store that had a used one, but now it was going for like 500. And I just started playing around with the partials and turning on envelopes off, and I could see, I could see how they did this. So that collection of partials, in their waveforms, mixing them together, it can be really useful.
There we go. Wow.
As for these, the two synths that we're talking about, one thing we should point out is they both have really good polyphony, which is rare. And then it's higher than the original synths had, so that's a strength. But they are virtual analogs. They're probably running off that Zen Core engine, which means they might become plugins or VSTs later because it's just code. And they might be releasing it in the future, but not releasing it now so that they don't shoot themselves and not sell any hardware.
Well, the JD08 and these are both available from on Zen on Roland's cloud.
They are both. Yeah, so it's most likely this is just repackaged hardware. I think probably the only one that might have been using ACP for the boutiques was probably the Jupiter 8 model, which only had 4 voices and was overheating. And that speaks to me that it's overtaxing the CPU, which ACP is a memory hog. Or memory hog, it's a CPU hog. Understand, because it's probably doing circuit modeling, and that takes a lot of CPU. And I think, because it's so hard to do, Roland probably said, a lot of people aren't going to hear the difference. They don't care. Let's do the one that's more CPU efficient. And they're just going with the Zen Core, which is basically an evolution of the 1080, 5080 engine, just with more parameters. And so with it, you can, as long as you can program those 1,000 parameters, you can kind of make any sound with it. So I think that's kind of what they're doing with it.
And I think the JD08 is multi-timbral too.
Yeah, I think they're all bi-timbral, right? Which is more than the original were.
Yeah, part of me feels that I can see myself getting the JD08, but I don't know.
And of the boutiques, I think the only one that's actually analog is the SHO2. The rest are all virtual. And the SHO2 was made in conjunction with an analog company, Studio Electronics. So there it makes sense. Right. And there's a reason why none of them are emulating the old hardware, even though other people are making emulations of these things that are actually analog, like Behringer and Zomix and other things, lots of other companies, because the Roland president just basically forbid everybody from rehashing the past, and so they weren't allowed. And once he died, then they started reissuing everything. But they have this company philosophy about never looking back and always moving forward, so they're doing it digitally. and it's cheaper for them, and it's a cheaper workflow. So, that's what their factories are set up for, and their production lines. So it makes sense that they're doing it. People are very happy with the boutiques, for the most part. So, and then in the end, they're a company about making money, and these things that we're arguing about generally doesn't affect sales. There's not that many of us elitists, so even if you lose the elitist crowd, that's not the majority crowd. The majority crowd is you're selling, synthesizers to churches.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't trying to be too super, elitist about it. Because I think they sound great.
Yeah,
they're a little small. I feel like they should make in a little bit something intermediate size. It could still be small, but just not.
Is this form factor similar to what is it, Eurorack size?
Right. Well, they did that one, the System 500, which they did with Moleco.
Yeah.
And the Moleco folks put a lot of effort into that, and it sounds pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that there's some other philosophy for why they're making them this size. Sure, making things smaller makes them a little bit cheaper, but I don't think it's just that. I think it's something else. There's some kind of design principle that says this size format. It makes them largely unusable. Because the controllers are so small, you can't really dial them in, especially with sliders. With knobs, even a small knob, it still rotates 360 degrees. So you can have that, that sensitivity is programmable. But with a slider, the smaller the slider, the harder it is to get from, between 50 and 51.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying is to throw on those things is probably ridiculous. And these sliders look like they're probably some of them look like they're about an inch, and then the actual slider knob is half of the size of the slider area.
I have doubts about the usability of any slider that's less than 2.5 inches.
Well, we always knew you were a size queen.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, after having had mixers and control surfaces now with 100 or 120 millimeter fader throw, it makes me very upset.
Well,
to use
my Kurzweil slider wasn't that long, and it was very usable. So bigger is better in American tradition, but in this case, 2.5 was enough. But I suspect smaller than that, and it starts to become unwieldy.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe I just can't settle for anything less. Maybe it's just too small. I think you just need the length.
Yeah. Well, also, I think a lot of these are designed to be used with other controllers. Controllers with girth.
That's
Jesus,
right.
Jeff.
And not battery.
You know what else
power,
they're missing is
the
some
endurance of AC.
They are missing some girthy connections on the back of them. That is
right?
the worst part of it. Is honestly that.
I thought this was going to be a clean show. I don't work blue. I'm out.
3.5 millimeter is
not big enough.
It's not professional.
It's just
XLR 1/8 inch. Because you need
who can deal with such a small plug?
Yeah.
It's so small. I didn't check. Does these things have the goofy MIDI cable connectors that aren't really the adapter things? No, it actually has full size MIDI. That's nice. So.
I think all the
yeah.
All of the things I think have the full
I thought
size
some
MIDI.
of them didn't they have the 1/8 inch. They came with the 1/8 inch to MIDI adapter.
That's full size on
maybe
the 05.
Maybe it's something else that I got.
But I will bitch because it's only MIDI in and out. It's not. There's no through.
It was the model samples maybe. There was something.
Oh, the model samples had they had those the micro penises. Yeah.
That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you're right, Jeff. And that was a weird choice because it's everything is real fiddly, and then there's these big DIN connectors.
The size of 2 bricks. You could fit 2 bricks in there, but they're like, hey guys, you have a headphone plug from your iPod in here. I don't like it. Meanwhile, it blows me away because I've been I'm still waiting on my SP404 Mark II to turn up, and it has 17 headphone plugs or something. And it's got the 1/4 inch, it's got the 3.5 millimeter, It's got they've gotten rid of the RCA plugs. It's got like 1/4 inch in left and right and 1/4 inch out, and then something else. I don't know. It's just like plugs on plugs on plugs. And if you turn an SP404 sideways, it's actually not much different in size than a boutique.
Right.
And it is nothing but just plugs. It's just a box with plugs in it.
Wow.
They could have done it. They didn't want to
they
do
were
it.
lazy.
The people who worked to deliberately target Christoph and remove software that was on Windows and ported only to Mac, they were working on this design too.
We're also making sure that nothing has headphone jacks anymore.
Yeah. The army of evil gremlins that make things just to piss you off, Chris.
So many of them. Oh, yeah, which company was it that got rid of headphone jacks? Oh yeah, Apple.
What do they need headphone jacks for?
So I can, well, for example, a headphone splitter, so I can, me and someone else can listen to the same thing on one
Multiple
device.
Bluetooth connections.
Well, that's a thing.
Yeah.
All right.
But you gotta buy some hella expensive headphones.
Well, if you're listening to your stuff on garbage headphones, that's your fault.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, like, I used to lose those like
My
crazy.
poor sad $400 AKG.
Oh God, they're garbage.
We just need to go back to carrying around
no
boom
headphones,
boxes
just
on our
loud-ass
shoulders,
speakers.
and that's how we all
Well,
share music.
When I was
I'll
visiting
take
my
you to
dad,
Funky Town.
visiting my dad last summer, he fished out my. So back in the 80s, they had the Sony Walkmans, which were prohibitively expensive for people like me. So Sanyo made a knockoff version. They had the same like orange, covers on the headphones and everything. And yeah, he was like, "Here, I found this," and it was like my original tape player.
Nice.
Sanyo.
Did it still have your
Yeah.
Nucleus cassette jammed
That's
in there?
cool.
Oh, absolutely. And I found like Prince's Purple Rain in there. I tell you, like I had some quality time with that thing. I love
Fuck
that
yeah.
thing. Changed my life. Changed my life.
Yeah, I had a Walkman as well, an off-brand Walkman as well, and I used that thing until it stopped working.
Yeah.
And that was like a good 6 years worth of usage off that thing.
Yeah. It was great for tuning your family out or for whatever.
Yep.
I used to skateboard with it, which is probably super dangerous.
I used to survive
Another
my
thing.
childhood with it.
All of the above. Tick, tick,
Same.
tick, tick D for, yeah.
So speaking of semi-modular desktop synthesizers, our good friends at Dreadbox, who get more and more colorful and pretty with everything they release. Remember when they were just kind of drab and everything was either black or gray and that was your choices? Well, not anymore. So they just released most recently this beautiful thing called the Dysphonia, which is a DIY desktop / Eurorack full voice synthesizer that is going for about $200 in a limited release. It's really nice looking.
Yeah. It's already sold out. It might as well have been a fucking NBT.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they had it for sale a few weeks ago. If we would do this show more often than 2 weeks, you might have heard about it beforehand.
No.
But that's your
Well,
fault
look,
for watching us and
Yeah,
not
it
Sonic
happened.
Talk, huh?
Yeah. I love Dreadbox.
Yeah, me too.
I listened to some demos of this. It's pretty cool. It's slick.
Yeah, it's
If I had a Eurorack format, it's a no-brainer.
yeah.
Their effects, by the way, were the first colorful things they did, right? The Eurorack effects, which was so weird because you're right, everything was real drab and like almost like army fatigues, you know, like. And then all of a sudden it was like pop,
Yeah, I still have as I said, I'm selling most of my Eurorack stuff because I can't deal with it anymore. But I did keep the Echo and Splash modules, their effects modules that they did, as well as their weird bright yellow, I can't even fucking read it, phaser too that they have. But I like Dreadbox's stuff. I do have a Medusa behind me. And I love the way that thing sounds. The analog side of it, I wish it did have some of the beautiful Dreadbox effects in there, but you know. So yeah, this thing, it's kind of just a basic full voice synthesizer. It doesn't do anything too crazy. It's got a analog self-oscillating LFO, the 24 dB 4-pole. You have a 12 dB 2-pole analog multi-mode filter. And it does have the same echo effect that the Erebus has. So
I'm guessing it's the Mark II version, because the Mark I, there's some debate about which people like which, because the Mark I was grittier and dirty.
But yeah.
They sure do like the logo. That's the only thing that kind of got me about this. I was like, I don't know. It's not for me, but it's cool. I like the DIY stuff too, especially the DIY stuff that is sort of relatively accessible, which this looks to be. But as a Euro rack module, it feels like this is very, very HP hungry
big
for that logo. I mean, like, I don't know, 20% of it is just logo.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When your case costs $10,000 per square inch, just before you put anything in it, because it says Euro rack on it, when it's like just empty, that's a lot of
it's
money.
42
for a
HP,
logo.
so it's not small.
And I don't know what's that's got to take you down to, like, no joke, probably 8 HP of it is logo.
Yeah,
but you can run it as a desktop. I don't see any like end cheeks or casing for the bottom.
No, but
maybe
you can
just like naked PCB everywhere, collecting dust that you can never remove.
You can probably toss it into like one of those Moog boxes or something like that and be fine.
Sure. Get one of those Radio Shack kits.
Yeah.
Put in.
There you go. little black box there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it looks nice. It sounds nice. It's got a lot of patch points on there, which is fun. So I think this is a nice little beginner box for folks that want to solder up their own synth. I mean, it's got everything you need on there. It's a full synth. It's a full synth voice. So you've got filters, you've got oscillators, you've got your modulations, your LFO, and a little effect. So it's a full synthesizer right there. It's like a tiny version of the Phenol.
Cool.
So yeah, Dreadbox. Good job, guys. And it's sold out, so you can't buy it anyway. So expect to find it on Reverb, already assembled for you, going for $16,000.
No, it won't be assembled. It'll be. This is something I was thinking about with the latest version of the Korg ARP 2600 Mini. It's going to be relatively expensive. It's really limited quantity. It's hard to get. It's going to cost plenty to begin with. And I bet 50% of those damn things are going to turn up on Reverb, new in box, for 3x the price. And that just chaps me, man. When I see the scalping stuff like that go on, I don't care if somebody's got a 600-year-old Leonardo da Vinci synthesizer that he made on his flying machine or whatever, and they're selling it for a bunch of money. Like, you're paying the storage fee at that point, and it's old, it's been kept up and everything. But the stuff that's just brand new and people are flipping on Reverb, just really, I don't like it.
I understand that.
Yeah,
said the guy who
I wish
a P1.
Put the instruments in the hands of the people that want to play them.
Yes, I mean the ethos of Reverb originally was kind of like for us by us sort of musicianship stuff, and I feel like they've strayed a little from that. They become a little. I mean, it was inevitable, I guess. It's fine.
Got bought by Etsy, and Etsy, the world's premier marketplace of things that you made yourself by buying them from a Chinese factory directly off of a pallet and then selling them in mass.
You think
instead
You
of
think you're getting a
audio.
DeLorean with a handmade flux capacitor, and look what happens.
Next thing you know, you're buying plutonium from the Libyans.
Yeah.
God, I hate it when that happens.
Oh dear. Oh dearie my.
Oh yes. So yeah, there you go. The Dysphonia, beautiful logo with that amount of space to let it stretch out. Only 189 euros 2 weeks ago before it got sold out. And yeah, there you go. Slaughterhouse says, "Don't be a victim of FOMO and succumb to imagined needs. The fact that people buy them is why they are for sale." There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And I think in a lot of cases, too, though, it's because people really tried super hard. I mean, it's the same thing with like a PlayStation. You know, people try really hard to get it and they really want it. And you know, some of it is the imagined needs for sure. And I guess sort of like the notion of when things are scarce, they're more desirable for some people.
I mean,
But also sometimes people just really want it. Like if you really want the ARP 2600 and you wanted to buy the thing and you would have happily paid the $2 or $3 grand Korg's going to charge. I don't know how much it actually is at this point, but you'd be willing to pay whatever it was. But then all of a sudden here comes some jackleg popping it up on Reverb for like $6 grand.
yeah. I mean, that to me, it's one thing if it's like early access. You know, I remember seeing this, you know, back with video game consoles, right? I mean, it's pretty far back, you know. As soon as it came out, somebody had it in. They bought a couple, it fell off the back of a truck somewhere, and, you know, they were selling them. It's the same kind of deal. I mean, my thing is, if there is this much demand, why are the manufacturers, other than all the other supply chain issues we all know are happening, even prior to this happened, why release less than you can sell? It's not even going to benefit you as a seller at that point, because you're not going to inflate your prices. You're just, like, to Jeff's point, you're just letting some scalper, like, you know, I mean, hey, you know, maybe that's how they make a living, you know, kudos.
Well, and Dreadbox does a lot of limited run stuff anyway. They've been kind of known for doing that kind of thing. So, you know, not everything, you know, that they put out, stuff seems to sell out pretty quickly. And I would imagine they're a small boutique company to this day. There's probably, I mean, there's only 50 people in Greece, and I think 10 of them work for Dreadbox, if I'm not mistaken. I think if the numbers are correct.
I think your numbers might be off, but you know, I just a guess. I could be totally wrong.
Okay, 60 people in Greece. I don't know.
That's a 2020 census update.
Yeah. Actually, Natasha had her baby, so it's 61.
Oh, congratulations, Natasha. Thank you for bringing the 61st person in Greece, therefore crippling the economy and causing another downfall in the Greek economy. That's what they're really good at doing, is having their economy fail, and making limited edition synthesizers.
You know, they got to keep up with Portugal.
Fair enough.
That's what they do.
I should point out that the Greek, country's debt per person is actually less than the American debt.
Which I'm surprised about, really, because for the longest time that was not the case.
Yeah, our debt is just that bad.
Yeah,
we're just mindless consumers. That's
true. At least the Greeks have nice places to vacation at. I guess we do too, but not as nice as some of the places, and you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I digress as usual.
Plus, they have delicious food.
They really do. Spanakopita, my favorite holiday.
Spanakopita.
Nice Venture Brothers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will be beginning my pumice carving contest tonight after the show.
Just remember, Andrew, my albino is cooler than your albino.
God, I love that show. All right. Well, so yeah, that's the so go back in time and buy that beautiful synthesizer from Dreadbox, because now you can't.
It'll eventually be on eBay. Someone's going to buy it and realize, oh man, I don't know how to solder, and they're going to sell it.
Yeah, they're like, this is going to be a cool kit to work on, and then they'll never work on it, and then they'll just sell it. Yeah.
Yeah. Soldering is hard.
Kind of is. I fucked up a couple projects, I admit. But
to do it right, it's hard.
and well, it's funny because like the DIY projects that I didn't fuck up are one of the ones that I thought was going to be more complex, and the ones that I did fuck up are the ones that are like, this is so simple to do, children can do it, and I'm like,
hubris. Hubris is absolutely the number one reason that soldering goes badly.
Yeah, I fucked up my passive mults that I made. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell I did to those. But my oscilloscope works flawlessly.
That's funny, and that has like 4 connections on it.
Yeah, no, I made a. No, I made a.
Like
the oscilloscope. No, that actually had a bunch of them.
Yeah,
that took a couple of hours. It was like one of those DIY oscilloscopes that you buy for like $20. But someone, Waveform Magazine sold a kit that you can turn into like a Eurorack compatible oscilloscope. And so I built that, and it took a while, but it was like, oh, and it worked. I'm like, first thing out of the box, the mult that was literally had 4 points to solder on it. Yeah, I fucked that up. It's like, here's a capacitor. Yeah. What's that for? I'll just put it in my butt. I don't need that for anything else. You know,
it's the tortoise and the hare, man. Every time,
it is. Like the thing that took 10 minutes, I'm like, it still doesn't work, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not good at that. Next time I'm just going to talk to Sid and just have Sid do it, because he'll do the fucking microscopic soldering jobs and shit like that. Because that guy's a fucking nut. Christoph, you watched him for a little while. I saw you were like asking him questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's got real skills.
Yeah, he's got mad skills, but watching him, he is just like, he's absolutely insane.
Makes it look easy. He makes it look easy. Like, I've tried to do some of those things. It's like, just make a giant mess and just ruin everything like instantly. Within 2 seconds, it's just solder everywhere and everything is shorted out now. And he was precise. It was, I've never. I don't know how to do SMD.
Ocean of flops everywhere.
Pieces, and he did. He was doing SMD solder.
Yeah, and at the same time screaming and like yelling at people and stuff like that. He's just great.
That's funny. I've always liked soldering.
I think to do SMD soldering, you probably need a tutor to help you guide you through the basics of how to get everything to stay in place and not float around.
Yeah, I agree. There's something very relaxing about just like doing solder jobs and stuff like that, I find, but it's even more relaxing when they work and you're not like, what the fuck did I do? Yeah. I just need to take some more classes up at the Cleveland Makers Alliance. Let's see here. Slaughterhouse says, wife randomly heard, I'll just put it in my butt. She's like, what the fuck are you watching? Slaughterhouse's wife. Slaughterhouse is watching me put things in my butt.
It was a capacitor.
A capacitor, yeah.
Yeah, which, depending upon how long it's been away from the charge, could be interesting.
River. 302 Dave says, the first time I tried making an Atari Punk, I was testing it and the volume knob started smoking. You released the magic smoke. 302 Dave. Good job.
Those are great.
Yeah, they really are.
I nearly bought one that was in the shape of a Darth Vader. I think they'd taken one of those Darth Vader light switch covers, like we had, and they like used that as the case for the. Yeah, it was so great.
That's lovely. Slaughterhouse's wife is now shaking her head. That'll teach her to try to listen in on this show.
She's just thinking about it from the ocean perspective.
Darn you! We're just messing with you, Slaughterhouse's wife. Happy Wookiee Life Day.
Yes. And just for you kids out there, don't put electrical components in your mouth or your butt.
Especially not capacitors.
Yeah.
So like.
Yes, really not capacitors.
From an old television,
capacitors are not your friends.
Electricity to kill you.
Yes. We used to when I worked for Apple, back when the eMac was the thing, which was like the last CRT computer that they made, and the take apart manual, you had to discharge the CRT using this like long stick with like a screw at the end of it, like this long plastic stick. And they give instructions, and they say that you had to put your hand behind your back so you don't create an arc over your heart. And like the picture of it literally has the guy crossing his fingers behind his back. because there's always a chance.
Oh my
Because the thing is that even
God.
if you don't know, there's no way to know if you successfully discharged this thing or not. So even after using this thing, there's still a chance you could blow your fucking shit up. Yeah.
Wow. Did they get you a hazard
No,
pay
of
for
course
that
not.
shit or what, dude?
Nobody gives hazard pay for doing that. They just got rid of them instead. Yeah, but look, no one. I don't
fair
know
enough.
anybody who's ever died from doing a disassembly. Like some of the stuff we just refuse to do. Like if the tube needed to be replaced, we're just going to replace the whole computer. Fuck you, because none of us wanted to die. But there was a guy who he was reassembling an iMac G5 and left the thing plugged in, and when he set it down, the back of the whole unit down on top of it shorted out, and the thing jumped off the table and landed on the floor. And this was like a 23-inch iMac G5.
Holy.
Yeah. So I renamed that technician Sparky. And he fucking hated that. He eventually quit because I kept calling him Sparky because I'm mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he quit because he was an asshole. Anyway. So speaking of controlling your synthesizer with 4 joysticks, am I right, guys?
Oh,
Woo! The Future Retro Vectra. There's a whole bunch of like nouns there. The hybrid vector synthesizer with 4 joysticks is now available to pre-order. Right? So this thing looks right out of, like, this is in the Imperial Stormtroopers valet service. Like it
reminds me of the
Mordor. It kind of
Remember
does
that
with the
thing?
Mordor.
Yeah, it had that. I forget what the model was. There was a little one and a full size one, but yeah, they also look like stormtroopers.
So this is
so what I love about this synth is you can use it to pilot your BattleBot.
right.
Mm-hmm.
My big tracks would run so cool on this thing. Like I can make that little dump truck thing go back and forth.
Oh, for
So
sure.
this is the
mixer is pretty cool. As a mixer, like a 4-way mixer joystick is a kind of a novel idea, I thought.
So
Yeah, I only had one in my TG33,
Right.
so it's a huge improvement.
So the Vectra is a new
I have a TG32.
nice. So this thing is a hybrid vector synthesizer with audio, analog, and digital elements. It's a semi-modular that can be played in monophonic or 8 paraphonic modes. 4 digital oscillators featuring virtual analog and 500 digital waveforms. So that gives you a little bit of power. It does. It's got analog filters, analog multi-mode filter that provides 6 primary filter types. So that's kind of nice. You got your oscillators are lovely. I mean, it's virtual analog, so you can do pretty much anything with that, right? They're digital kind of stuff. But the modulation engine is crazy. It's 5 multi-wave LFOs and 6 morphing envelopes, which is a lot of fun. I have morphing envelopes and stuff on the Medusa, and I have a lot of fun playing with those. You have 500 waveforms to choose from on your LFOs. That's a
lot.
Yeah,
Wow.
I would imagine the person who programmed that must have gotten bored. Each LFO can work with sub-audio to audio rates, can have a fixed frequency or one that is tracked by the keyboard notes. Also feature sync, FM, and more. They can act as LFOs, complex envelopes, or audio rate oscillators. Then you have 6 morphing, snappy DAH DSR envelopes with loop functionality. There's no effects on this thing. And it's...
Yeah, did you listen to I listened to the demos, and it
is.
Pretty
it is. You've got
wild.
the keyboard's capacitive. It's note on off, pitch velocity, and aftertouch. And And you also have like the audio glide, so you can like move your fingers around it and stuff like that. It has an arpeggiator and sequencer that can be linked to each other. And you got these 4XY joysticks to alter multiple parameters simultaneously. First is pitch, bend, and mod wheel. Second is for the 4-channel mixer, which is what you're talking about there, Jeff. Third is for filter, cutoff, and resonance, and last is you can map it to whatever. So this is kind of a weird, fun-sounding synthesizer. And yeah, it sounds really good. It's $1,100, and they're taking deposits for $550 right now, and they're going to start shipping next spring.
I mean, to me, this is a legit boutique, you know. I think the Vector synthesizer was another one. I actually like the visualizations on the Vector a lot. But yeah, I think they're in that same category. I put Motor in that category too, of like true boutique, you know, someone's probably hand assembling them, probably not manufacturing all the components, but you know, it's like.
But it looks slick. 302 Dave says the shape of the black keys kind of hurts his brain. Good. Your brain needs more pain.
I really like them. I thought they were really
too.
cool. It makes it look more like a starfighter or something.
I know. It looks like weird teeth.
Yeah. They do.
Yes.
Looks like angry teeth.
I mean, I'm here for it.
Right?
It is nonsense, though. To be very clear, the shape of the keys is absolute nonsense, but it is nonsense that speaks to me.
Oh, is it like a touch
Yeah, it's a
thing, like
capacitive.
easel? Yeah, it is.
Or the micro
Capacitive. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I looked at the other picture and I was like, okay. Because when you do it from top down, it's a little hard to tell. Interesting.
Yeah, it looks pretty interesting. I like the way it sounded. I was into the demos as well. The biggest thing for me with something like this is I have a lot of questions about the UI.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a contraption that lets you do some really wild stuff with the presets that are on there really easily with these 4 joysticks, seems really cool. But with all of the depth that it's got, I mean, this dude's got 8 knobs and a screen the size of a thumbnail. With that much power, it just screams, I'm going to treat you like a Waldorf.
Well, it also has 4 tiny buttons in there as well. So you
Yeah.
it's got more.
I'm
It's got more tiny buttons on there too.
It does. It's got about 10
Yeah, it's
tiny
got
buttons.
10 tiny buttons.
It looks
2
like,
screens.
I'm just thinking about scrolling through that stuff. It's just like it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, it does look like you're going to do a lot of menu diving.
Yeah.
With this, but I do think, although something Slaughterhouse said here that about it being impractical, there's an upside. So I think if you set up a patch to do the modulation correctly with the joysticks, you'll be able to do stuff that you can't do with other synths. So I have a bunch of software mini mode clients, and I can program them. And when I got my Behringer Bode, I was programming them completely differently because I could twist 2 knobs at the same time. Mm-hmm. And the way that I would implement that, I just came up with sounds so they just normally wouldn't have found through the Sonic Exploration, being able to move 2 knobs at the same time. I've just got 2 hands, but with 2 joysticks, now you're modulating more than 2 parameters, but 4. Mm-hmm. So it does really open up a lot of possibility to be using 2 joysticks at once. And then you could like find something with 2 and then switch hands to another one and start modulating another set of parameters. So the capability for going on synth exploration with this synth, it is, significant. It looks like a novelty at first, but if implemented correctly, it could be incredible.
Mm-hmm. I have to say that the joystick idea on a synth, I'm absolutely in love with. I prefer that to just like the wheels and stuff like that because of the way you can program the modulation or whatever you're programming into that joystick, and you can turn it in many more directions than just a wheel and that kind of thing. I know like on the analog keys that has a joystick on there, and the modulation you can do on that just makes things absolutely fucking shit bunkers, and I love what you can do with that. And then, also like on the The Wave State has the joystick controller on there as well, and that makes that much more fun. Even though you're basically kind of using it as a mixer, it's still it's a great great way of doing it.
Yeah. But with
Yeah.
one hand,
You know
you're
who-
controlling 4 parameters.
Exactly.
Or 2 parameters, X and
Mm-hmm.
Y. But that's still freeing up another
Right.
hand. So that's a lot of modulation, simple.
Mm-hmm.
And that the value of that can't be understated if you're trying to play expressive.
Right.
I think the Hydrosynth would have been a good candidate for something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Even the Minilog XD has a joystick, which is pretty cool. And even I think it's funny. Even a pitch bend. So like the what was it, like the Judo 60 has the same sort of a pitch bend that the Super 6 has, which is the sort of like it's the stick that goes left and right and springs back to center, and you can and it has multiple things that you map to it. It's not just a pitch bend or a filter cutoff or whatever. That's very cool too, because the way you engage with it is just very different. It's more like a whammy bar on a guitar or something that rather than something that you bend sort of like carefully. I reach over all the time and wrench on it.
Right.
It's very gratifying.
Yeah, if you look at Nick Rhodes, I think, who used a lot of the Roland stuff live, making heavy use of that. And because it snapped back like that, you could play. It was a playing style. If you listen to some of the parts on Saber, for example, like, it's like he's flicking the thing.
Slaughterhouse asks if they snap to center. The video that I was watching on that, they don't look like they're snapping back to center. They just stay in one spot.
Yeah.
Which isn't,
You'd need that for the mixer.
So it is like controlling a drone.
I would assume that it has sort of like a detente in the center that you can. I would imagine it's very easy to find your 0-0 point on it,
Right.
but most things like this don't tend to snap hard back to center because in a lot of cases with the mappings that you'd want to do, if it didn't hold its position, you wouldn't be able to use it super well.
You'd be holding onto it with your finger, and then that doesn't let you play with the other 4 joysticks, the other 3 joysticks.
Yeah, especially in a case where you do actually have 4 of them. I can see a synth that had 1 joystick having a springy function to it, but 4 of them you'd be hurting if they were pulling back to 0-0.
So yeah, that's a Future Retro Vectra. Looks pretty slick. Going for $11.99. Pre-order it today. Shipping in the spring. The micro.
No, 302 Dave, you're right in the chat. The Roland style joysticks are great.
Yeah, it's the rest of them that are garbage. So Arturia has released the Microfreak Vocoder Edition.
Yeah, I put that in. I think actually the better way to have written that, I did a bad job with words. That it's more that they re-released it. So there was the vocoder edition.
That's
the
what
white
I thought.
vocoder.
I was confused.
They did a white vocoder edition of the Microfreak, but it was limited edition. And maybe this is also limited edition, but it looks like they're coming back and you're going to be able to get it again, which is cool because it's bright white. So if you want a Microfreak that is bright white, cool, here it is. But also it comes with the gooseneck packed in.
So the issue I'm seeing is that link is dead.
That link is dead. It does exist though.
I just found
on
it. Yeah,
Sound
I just
on
found
Sound.
it again here.
Yeah, it's still there, and then I went and checked that it is actually present on Sweetwater, and it's more on order, which is it used to be no longer available, and now it's more on order. So I think the real news here is like, hey, if you were interested in picking up one of the white Microfreaks, or you are interested in picking up any Microfreak, the deal is pretty solid. The price is
$6.50.
It's like 50 spot.
It's $50 more than the regular one, but the microphone is thrown in the box, and it's a fancy pants white colorway.
It's an interesting synth, and I like that it is kind of a what's what I'm looking for? It's kind of like a an Arturia test bed in a way, and they keep on updating it and giving it more cool shit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it feels
I don't have
Me
one,
either.
but my favorite part about it.
I don't
is
have
that it
one,
has a
but I'd
chili
really
pepper.
like Arturia to give us all one.
I agree.
Yeah.
Arturia.
Because it's a
Yeah.
really cool synth. It's got so many little engines in it, and they sound good. It just seems solid, and the stuff that I've seen the Graceful Bard do with it is amazing.
Interestingly enough, the Graceful Bard is selling theirs.
Will she sign?
Well,
If you ask her
it's
to.
got a chili pepper spice button on it, and that is pretty much that's it. What more do you
Right?
need? It's
Yeah.
got a gooseneck and a chili pepper.
What else do you need?
I would like a drizzle knob.
Oh,
but
can
that'll
I
be
get
about it.
can I get a EVOO
I would-
slider?
Oh my god!
Yes.
Even so at Mugfest, I think it was the last time we went. Yeah, I think it was the last time we went.
The last one they had.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, they had a room. Yeah, it was definitely because I went on the Quantum, which obviously exploded in my face and irritated me. But I spent a lot of time with the Matrix Brood and with the Matriarch and all this stuff. I probably spent as much time with this thing as I did some of those put together, which is weird because you're in this room full of this high-powered stuff, and there's this little box. But once you start tweaking the knobs,
Yeah.
you're just like, the fuck, like.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really cool. I mean, it's
No.
not a bread and,
And
butter
it's
synth,
got it's got an inviting interface.
yeah.
Right.
It sounds bloody good.
Yeah.
It's got art on it too, which is kind of cool. Like it's
Yeah.
got a drawing on the front of it, which is I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
Neat.
I'll take one. Solvignan says that if
Yeah.
I'd use it if
I
I
would
got
have
it for free. Well, if you were on our show and we got sponsored, then you would get one for free. But you're not, so we'll just be here hanging out with our free micro freaks that we're never gonna get.
We each get like a pallet
Right.
of them.
Palette.
I think
Go hang out
more
in
like
the
that
street
qualify for
corners.
stickers.
I mean,
Nice.
if you buy a Hydrasynth, it comes with 150,000 free stickers.
You don't
Yeah.
even need. You could just if you ever needed to wallpaper your house, you could just
Yeah.
use the Hydrasynths. It is comical how many of them come in the
It's
package.
so fucking funny. And if you see Glenn Darcy anywhere, he'll give you a T-shirt. Exactly.
Look at what I'm wearing right now. This is the one
That's funny.
that Glenn and I think Dominic actually gave this to me because I told him I had pre-ordered it, and he was like, "Thank you so much." Have a
At the last
t-shirt."
NobCon, Glenn's like, "Do you have a T-shirt?" And I'm like,
He's like-
"No." He's like, "Let me get you one." I'm like, "Okay, calm down."
Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
The first one's
Yeah,
free.
here, be my free advertiser.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
advertise it because I think that
For
it's a
sure.
fantastic synthesizer, and I tell people that all the
I
time.
mean, I'm advertising a band right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am advertising Wookiee Life Day by wearing my red sweater for Wookiee Life Day. I just need the big glowing ball and possibly an
Oh
Earth,
my
Wind, and
God.
Fire concert and B. Arthur, and then I know I'll be set.
I just want you to give me one of those impassioned hugs. Yeah, that's what I want.
That's good.
That was good, you guys.
Yeah,
I want the Wookiee hugs.
I'm in for the Wookiee
hugs.
sex.
Hey, it's weird.
Wow.
I don't know what happened,
really-
but I have
I-
to run. Sorry, guys. Goodbye.
I keep that up. Now, speaking of Venture Brothers, now I'm just thinking about
You think
what I'm
the
thinking
shaved
about, Bigfoot with
Bigfoot?
lipstick. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
this is the perfect time for the bandwidth to take a shit. There it goes. Cool. So yeah, they.
Yeah. Or for Slaughterhouse.
Yeah, I know,
have
right?
to
Wait
walk
for the wife to
in
come
the room.
back.
Came for the
Yeah.
synths, I stayed for the Wookiee
Oh
sex.
boy, no regrets there. So yeah, the Micro Freak vocoder edition. Get it today. Makes a perfect Christmas present. What better way to say I love you than with a gift of a Micro Freak? Except possibly the gift of a
It's a
spatula.
hint.
Better than a ring. Oh my god. Okay, next up on our list is the UAD has new plugins in collaboration with our friends at Manley and Neve. Manley and Neve, as everyone knows, don't sponsor us. Yet, but they will eventually.
We're gonna send each of us there's like a full-on like 32 channel
Easily
console
fits down my stairs. Absolutely.
in a moving van.
So if
Nev wanted to send me a console, I'd be happy to knock down a wall. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, a Neve or an SSL desk, I would knock down a wall.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
you have to
I
rent
don't
the
need that
apartment
wall.
next door to you to do that. Though.
Yeah.
This is a
my
It's a
studio
load-bearing desk. We don't need walls.
Yeah, I'm in the corner of this building, man. I could
You just gotta like put some hang some 2x4s out the side of them.
This is Chicago, man. I can do whatever I want.
This is the desk back. You just build like a like all the Wendy's used to have. The Wendy's
Oh, yeah,
would
the
have
little-
like
the
the
little, like,
glass,
garden,
like
the
that
little greenhouse
domed
thing.
kind of like curved glass.
Oh, we lost Christoph.
terrarium side
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Just build like your terrarium to stick it out the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is a delay and a pitch shifter.
Yes.
And a preamp.
I've heard other replicas, I think, of this pitch shifter. I forget the company that made it. It sounds really good. The original did anyway.
As the AMS DMX.
Yep.
That's the one. I can't remember the company that made it. It's going to kill me now. It wasn't Waves, but it was somebody like that.
Yeah, so they have the
PSP?
AMS DMX digital delay and pitch shifter and the Manley tube preamp. Manley.
Just very strong.
Jesus.
The thing that was kind of interesting. I mean, I think that the UAD system is pretty cool for people who don't want to have a bunch of outboard physical gear or who don't want to buy ridiculous, gigantic 1,000-pound analog like I decided to do. Like, if you're not an idiot like me, it's a great way to go. But the this preamp sounds really good in the demo.
Yeah,
stuff.
it sounds great. It's going for $300 for the AMS DMX and $150 for the tube preamp.
Yep.
Ain't cheap.
Ain't cheap.
No, but I mean, a lot of that UA stuff just it just isn't. But it's because it works at such close conjunction with the device, and they offload the processing, and I'm sure it's got to take a lot of. It probably takes comparatively more development than some of the other plugins that just like run on whatever your computer gives them, and then the audience is sort of like by default smaller.
That's true. It's harder to recoup
Well,
your
Back,
development costs when the only people that can buy are people locked into your expensive hardware.
Yeah.
So for the record, I just want
Yeah.
to say that Universal Audio makes the greatest devices ever in case they're listening and want to give me stuff. But,
Yeah,
but it is
fantastic. I would
absolutely
love any
incredible
of it.
stuff, and the environment and the plugs that they sell are really top notch.
Yeah.
It's a super pro system. So like it's not uncommon to find these in like the production houses of movies and stuff like that. So it's a tier 1 thing, and so in a movie production house, whatever you charge, they're going to pay.
Yep.
You know, so it's really pro level quality. I mean, actually, Hans Zimmer is using this. Not Hans Zimmer, Junkie XL. He's using.
I would say Hans Zimmer is just using French horns.
Just French. I'm sorry. Well, they work together.
Just
But
French
Junkie
horns.
XL is using a UAV system.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of places that use. I mean, like UAD.
Yeah.
You see that. You see like RME in a few places, but there's only a handful of brands that, by and large. I mean, you see Motu in some cases too, but again, you know, it's depending on what's attached to
and
it.
RME, you know, like since the 90s with the Hammerfall series, they've had like the lowest latency of anything you could buy. And it's a real clean film, so it just made it super pro. But you pay a real premium for it.
Yeah, and Pro Tools was like that, right? It had external.
Yeah,
stuff.
originally, yeah.
Yeah, Pro Tools itself
Yeah.
didn't cost anything. It was the
To me,
hardware
like-
that you needed to buy that was compatible with it that cost thousands.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
and it was in production houses, you know, because it was.
I'm on the fence with this stuff. Sorry, I'm on the fence with this stuff because, so like, you know, I consider myself, you know, obviously a producer and a musician and a composer. When you get into stuff that, you know, is like real heavy mixing engineer or your mastering engineer stuff, is when I start to pull back, where I'm like, you know, am I going to spend a ton of dough doing this? You know what I mean? When somebody, like, for example, when we would master at Cauliflower, Andrew, you know, you
Yeah.
look at the gear that Adam's got, right? Like, this dude has spent a penny on some super
But
high-end
that's
outboard.
his day job. That's his living. That's what he does. That's all he does.
But yeah, that's how it
Yeah.
makes sense. It's not the home.
That's what
business.
I'm saying.
This is for the person's like who's going to
Yeah.
make their money back
Right.
on it. So you know, it's like
Yeah.
this expensive gear. So when you're renting out your studio, you're renting the stuff that people can't buy at home. So it makes sense. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you're not making money in your studio, this is priced out of your reach.
Yeah, I mean, Waves is my compromise because I use Waves for post-production stuff, and I guess to a certain degree Isotope too. But yeah, that's as far as I'm willing to spend. For whatever reason, I become very miserly when it comes to this kind of stuff. I think it's really cool.
But
Yeah.
Also, I'm not an expert at
Yeah.
it. You know, this is a whole expertise.
yeah,
you
it
know,
is.
same with
But
math.
this is like, you know, for flood and for people who do this all day, every day, and get paid and are getting paid a
Right.
ridiculous amount of money to get something done by
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so like it's not a real concern for them, and they can throw money at their problems to make them go away.
Yeah. When you absolutely positively have got to shift every pitch in the room, this is where you go.
That was a FedEx reference, wasn't it?
Solvington says, get AMS stuff if you want to sound like Joy Division. Truth. Or Prince.
I think you might need some other stuff.
Yeah, possibly some talent.
Now, there's a Joy Division cover band called Disorder that's really spot on. So, I mean,
Oh, cool. Are they
they're
a tribute band? I
and I've
guess.
seen them a few
Yeah.
times, and it sounds real good. So they have figured
Nice.
out the production
Does he have
stuff.
dance style?
It sounds like Joy Division.
Nice.
If he's got the Ian Curtis thing, you know, that's the
That's the
thing.
important thing. 30T Dave says, I would knock down a wall so that I could store a Neve in my house long enough to resell it, retire early, and buy a new house without a knockdown wall.
Solid
I like
plan.
this. Thinking of the future. Speaking of the future, our good friends over at Twisted Electrons, as everybody knows who does not sponsor us, are teasing a new synth pulled from an old sound card. And that's all we know.
Yeah, it's an
First
old.
off, what synth is this? We know what the chip is.
Well, it's isobus formatted. Was it Sound Blaster
I
card?
think so,
wasn't
yeah.
Yeah, it's most likely an
Some-
OPL3,
it? Yeah.
and the OPL3 is a great chip.
Yes. They're calling the synth the 121221. But that's all it's labeled on there, which is probably actually the launch date. But in the video you see an old ISA format sound card that's some bright spark on the Electronauts forum has identified as a Sound Blaster 16 MCD CT1750.
Man, I
Right?
remember those frickin'
Yep.
things. No play
Oh
or
my
play, man.
god!
IRQs
Trying to
all
figure
day
that
long.
shit out was a pain in the butt.
Yeah. So they in this article it says that they think the chip is the Yamaha YMF 262M, which is one of the OPL3s. And importantly, not all the OPLs would do 4-operator FM, but this one will in one of its configurations. And it also has 4 oscillator shapes, which is super important. So it's a little bit like a TX81Z. So it's a really capable FM synthesizer on a chip. And this chip is actually what got me interested in FM synthesis. You know, the soundtracks for like Doom, which were very OPL3, you know, all this FM programming, you know, they weren't it didn't use like a lot of synths had the ability to play back like a simple
Right.
wavetable, like sampler synth, and that's not what Doom used. Doom used this FM, and I couldn't believe how good some of the basses on it sounded, and some of the other things. And this came at a time when the synths I had in my studio were pretty limited. Like I had a Kawai K1, which is a very weak Wampler, and so what you can do with just this 4-operator FM synth was kind of amazing, but it's also so freaking hard to program. So it takes a long time to get used to programming FM, but but what you can do with it is absolutely amazing.
If anything in the video is to be believed, then it sounds like it's going to be really cool sounding. And these guys did like the what was it, the Sega the Mega FM, which was is shit bonkers crazy synth.
The Therap Kid too. Yeah. Yeah, the Therap Sid and I think the Happiness L is what they call it. Oh, the Sega Mega Drive too.
Yeah, that was the Mega FM.
It's funny because that's how Electron got started, right? With that SID station, right? That the thing that looks like the alarm console in
that was an engineering
warehouse.
Project that they did for their one of the guys, the engineer did for his degree for college, and they decided to market it, and that's how Electron got started. The end. So yeah, this looks really promising. This looks interesting, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll get more information, and you'll hear it here first because we're the only show on the internet that talks about music gear and Wookiee Life Day. We do not all steal all of our stories off of Bo Beats' news page on his Discord.
And the OPL3 chipset was used in a bunch of like low-level Yamaha synths, but you couldn't really program them. But on the computer and on the sound cards, they were programmed, and so it's an improperly exploited chip. So this is actually very exciting. If they can put a good interface on it, people are going to do really neat things with it. Yeah, and it's the kind of stuff that's going to cut through a mix in a way that, because it's just so not analog, it's going to stand out.
Not to be one of those people that pushes their glasses up and says it sounds better when it's the real thing, but I'm a vintage gamer. I have lots of emulators. But if you plug in even something like the Atari ST or a Real Commodore 64, it just sounds so good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like that sound, okay.
But it's the emulations; they're not really there.
Yeah,
they're different. There's a huge difference when you put them side to side if you have the ear for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people emulate games. They spend a lot of time making sure that the visuals look great, and I feel like even with the SID stuff, where everyone knows about the SID chip, I feel like they just kind of are like, Well, it's hard to emulate that stuff because it's errors in analog electronics that are so integral to the SID sound.
Absolutely.
And making it do the things it wasn't supposed to do, and that stuff just doesn't emulate well. It's really tricky unless you go down to circuit emulation like the Diva has, which is just a CPU killer.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, that's one of the most exciting synths that we're talking about this week.
Definitely. I'm kind of jazzed about that one. I'm looking forward to seeing more about it. Coming soon.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Did Robin post that?
And hopefully it'll be cheap because it's it's a chip. It's a synth on a chip basically.
What'd you say, Justin?
I think he froze.
No, he's moving.
Or did Justin lose sound?
No, I heard him ask something, but I couldn't hear him. Justin?
No, he's gone silent. I don't think he can hear us.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say, didn't Robin post that? Was that her?
Yeah, Robin saw that one. Good eye, Robin. Thanks for posting that.
Thank you, Robin.
Robin has secret access to our group that we post all of our news stories onto because she kicks ass. Slaughterhouse says real Sid using sure sounds fucking raw. Salvinian says Sid's buzz like nothing else. Love that sound. So sweet. So in other synthesizer news, Jeff, how did you install the new firmware on your Super 6?
I didn't get to install it yet, but I did read up on it, and I downloaded their patch notes. And I want to say I'm going to try to post this from their patch notes in case anybody. Their patch notes are in a text file. Oh, it didn't work at all. They have so I was trying to post they have like ASCII art in their patch notes. It's very good. They really know like who their audience is and who they're talking to, which I really enjoy.
I just reported that, by the way.
Patch notes,
your post there.
Thank you. It was actually hacking. So, I am looking forward to it. So there are a couple of things. For anybody who doesn't know this, the firmware on the Super 6 is still in beta. So this is version 0.27, I believe. I think they come out of beta for the firmware when the desktop one launches, is what it sounds like. The plan is likely to be. So there are a couple of weirdnesses with it. So I think it is technically possible to change the patch via MIDI. I have not succeeded in doing it. This looks like it brings it a step closer. It's not that big of a deal because it only holds 128 patches and it's 2 buttons in any case to change them. But there's no screen to read them, so you just have to remember them. So if you're using something like a pyramid where you could actually, map a patch to a song or something, it would be really nice to have. So that's cool. Looks like we're getting closer there. It also has some additions and changes to the way that some of the envelopes work to add some more capability there. To add, I think it's like a decay hold. So there's an attack hold on one of the envelopes, and I guess they're adding a decay hold as well. They're doing some bug fix as well. So it used to be that if you let the envelope for the amplifier go all the way to 0, it didn't fully close in some circumstances. That was very annoying when you want the thing to go silent, so they're fixing that. There are some weird issues with the arpeggiator. Basically, like, it won't turn on and off right sometimes, and there's some weird recursions that can happen depending on how the device is receiving tempo. So a lot of this is very like quality of life broken stuff that is none of it was like game breaking for somebody using the synthesizer, but a lot of these bugs, I mean, I guess it depends on how you use a synthesizer. If you're a person who uses a synthesizer by just playing the patches on it, or the presets, it probably doesn't do much. But if you get in and dig around and build stuff, it does that. But they also added some new features like with the shift button, so it should be good. I haven't installed it, but I'm
patch switching via MIDI is kind of a good idea. I mean, that's kind of a common thing with a lot of synths, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to catch on yet, but
you know what? The freaking Roland System 8 does not do that. It's the most annoying fucking thing in the world.
Huh. Roland?
I don't enjoy not being able to change patches by MIDI, especially because I've gotten really accustomed to doing it from the pyramid. So what I will do is if I'm just auditioning a bunch of patches, which sometimes that's a great way to go through things. Like you just try to, sometimes the sound itself is the inspiration for something. And so I'll just like turn on some rando arpeggiator, put in, like a 4 count, like 4 on the floor, just like C note basically. And then scrolling through the patches by doing it on the pyramid is super fast. Cause you just twist the knob. It goes bip, 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 right up the patches. And I do that a lot. I don't like that I can't do it on this synth.
That was actually my reason not for using a bunch of Rob Papin soft synths, is that it wouldn't accept patch control changes. You know, it's a deal killer. If you're using like a controller keyboard, you need to be able to change it from your keyboard. You don't want to have one hand on a mouse or on another thing. You want to be able to do it all from your controller, and that's a complete deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
Did you say Rod Pavin? Yeah. They do make some nice stuff. I have Blue too, and I use Blue a lot. But I agree that's a weird oversight.
Yeah, at least this is the way it was like 15 years ago. I don't know if they do it now, but I remember originally like I can't remember what the first ones were, but yeah, they did.
Yeah, Spectro. No, that wasn't it.
There's
a whole bunch of them.
I can't remember. Predator, something like that.
Predator, maybe. They have such a huge catalog.
Yeah, but I checked and before I bought the thing and said, because it was not listed in the manual, and I did reach out to some people and dig around, and people were saying, yeah, that's on the list. It looks like from the forums and everything. So I said, okay, that's fine. But with only having 128 patches, it isn't the end of the world. But for like, I have the way that I will do stuff with the pyramid is I save. I mean, this is like, I guess, it sounds so duh when you think about it from the perspective of a DAW, but I save the patch that I want to use into the pyramid as like a MIDI CC control. It's the only one that I can't do that for, so I have to take more notes on paper, which I do anyway, but...
I mean, back in the day, I used program changes because... You know what my rig was in the 90s, Andrew. I mean, you don't have shit, right? At least I didn't. Therefore, you need to be able to reuse synths in different parts of the song. Nowadays, they're spoiled rotten, to the point where I'm mostly using it as a lazy way to remember what patch I use on an outboard synth in my DAW.
That's exactly what I'm using it for. It's a lazy way to recall the patch.
That's a big deal, though.
Yeah. It is, and the interesting thing about it with the Super 6 is because the Super 6 is an FPGA synth, you can change the patches extremely fast.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. I haven't. Well, it's funny because you can't do it from MIDI, so I don't know how fast you could do it. But some FPGA stuff that people have been able to do, like with the Kyra, for instance, and it seems like it's possible. You could probably change the synth voice, I don't know, every eighth note.
There was a
and it'll be there fast.
There's a video that Novation did a while back where they took a Digitact and they use it as a MIDI sequencer with the peak, and they programmed drum patches on the peak, and they had it play it like a drum machine. And then they started cranking they just turned up the tempo all the way, and it just switched patches along with it at 400 BPM.
Yeah.
And it was,
I remember that.
Yeah.
They kept cranking it up. And I think they eventually
it was like something like
over
500
crazy,
BPM or something along those lines.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about FPGA is that any sort of speed of change that causes the FPGA to break down for you is an impractically high speed anyway. Like you're not getting any benefit at that point from changing.
Interestingly enough, when
go
ahead, Christoph.
I think if it breaks down at 500 BPM, it's actually the breaking point of the MIDI protocol and not the synth itself.
I think you're right, because I know that a friend of mine popped open his Digitact because he was looking to see if he can put a battery in it and run it off of a battery, and discovered that thing is running FPGA chips as well. Yeah.
No shit.
As well as the Digatone. They're running almost the same chipset.
Yeah.
It's so big in the retro.
Such an old protocol, and it's serial, not parallel. And it doesn't run at a fast rate. I think its rate is in bar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's slow. So, I mean, I did a paper about 20 years ago on MIDI slop and MIDI lag. And so it's not difficult to overwhelm MIDI. So I would think at 500 BPM with the patch changes, you might just be overloading the speed of the protocol.
The spec is still at 1.0 or something, isn't it?
No,
From like
they released MIDI
1982.
2.0. So,
Right. But I mean, for all
but
intents and
for the one
purposes,
that we're all
we use it
using, yeah, it's still
1.0 for 35
forever ago.
games.
And it's
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, it's got its flaws, but it made everything
It's a
work again.
ridiculously efficient technology. That so efficient that we barely have to make any changes to it.
Right.
Yeah, basically,
Well,
it was
they were able-
designed
2.0 isn't even getting
with the foresight of TCP/IP.
Sure.
Was-
I would say though they kind of cheated because they added first CCs and then NRPN. So they added stuff without making the specs.
Yeah, well,
somehow.
that's the thing about the specs in the first place is that it was you could add to it without breaking it, and like
Right.
SciSex as well, and that's immensely important because the SciSex stuff enabled STS.
Yep.
That's still the shit I used to update almost every synth that I fucking have. Which is always like I'm sitting there using like these, I think what is it? C6 is the one. Found that because like I find I can actually use it on the Dave Smith stuff or the sequential stuff, but it's kind of a crapshoot because you just like please work. Please don't break my expensive device that I would have to pay a fortune to ship back.
All right, so a couple more stories here. I'm going to combine some here together, and that is that Arturia just knocked 50% off of their soft synths for Black Friday, which is now going on apparently. Black Friday started early. So you can get like the V collection, the FX collection, and pigments for 50% of what you would normally buy for. So that's cool. And then Native Instruments has opened Cyber Season to allow you to hunt cyborgs freely. They're going to give you up to 50% off of their instruments and effects, like Complete 13, all that kind of stuff. They have a big sale going on there as well.
Well, not Complete 13.
Oh, sorry.
Complete 13 is 30% off. Not
I said
50%.
up to 50%, so 30% counts. It's like how my internet service provider guarantees me speeds up to 400 megabits per second.
Speeds
But
not
it's
to
okay. But
exceed
so
400
that
megabits.
that 1 megabit a second is still counts as being in contract.
Up to. Yeah.
Just like that hostess stuff may or may not contain rat. 0.00.
Hot dogs may or may not contain lips and
1%.
assholes.
Right.
So yeah, get ready, folks. We were talking on our base camp about how there's going to probably be a huge amount of stuff coming out as far as VSTs and plugins and stuff like that for the holiday season, simply because of the hard to get hardware right now. And so we're going to see a lot of stuff probably coming out, and it's going to be a big popular thing this season. So expect to see a lot of good sales on software because it's easier to ship it.
And yet I find two disappointments with both of these sales. One, now that Native Instruments has a new parent company, they're not offering the traditional 50% off for a complete upgrade. And then for their Arturia, they're only selling the V Collection 8 or 8.1, but it's not including the recently released SQ80.
Oh, really?
So it's like now, I'll wait for the collection that's going to include the SQ8.
Yeah, and that'll probably go on sale soon enough.
Yeah, and they, I missed the chance they were doing an upgrade like this summer, where you could get 8.1 and the SQ8, and it's like I'll wait till Black Friday to see what else they've released. And nope.
I tell you,
and right now they're saying that they're not going to release another collection this year, and that was true of last year. I think they released it like 2 days before New Year's Eve, or maybe it was 2 days after. I don't know, but it looks like, it's like if you hold your breath now, you're not going to do any better at Christmas. So you can wait now.
Yeah.
But if you don't have,
I'm watching Fab
the collection is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. You're watching Fab Filter, Jeff?
Yeah, I've been looking at the total bundle, but it's a grand.
Yeah.
Oof.
Which is not crazy for what it is, and you own it outright. There's no I don't
it's
subscribe.
very high quality. I mean, people really love
I don't
the whole
subscribe.
Fab Filter line. A lot of pros use it. It's really
Mm-hmm.
good stuff. So it makes.
But I think, I think that you're going to see a lot of stuff that pops up and turns onto big time sales. And I think that also, people who are looking for stuff for the holidays to give or to get, it's probably something to consider because there is still a global chip shortage. Some of the supply constraint, my hypothesis is that some of the supply constraint and the global chip shortage actually winds up pushing a lot of businesses out of business as well. We've seen some of that. And some of the manufacturing facilities, specifically in China, and they're it's weird because when there isn't enough supply and when there is more demand than supply, it's a real crunch for businesses, and they wind up often having to lay off workforce, and then recovering from it is basically impossible. So I think that the chip shortage is actually going to get much worse personally, because I think that a lot of businesses are going to ultimately fold, and then either the chips will just not, some chips, I guess, just won't return. And then other chips, some of them will be picked up by other manufacturers or something like that. But I expect this holiday season, for those of you looking to give and get gifts for people and things, digital synths
And
are
you know what
probably
also
a
makes a
thing.
great Christmas gift is a fine album from X Studios.
Ooh, tell us more.
If you like a
Or all of
Yes,
the
or
fine
all of the
albums
fine
from
albums.
X Studios.
You really could,
You could
and
buy
we won't
all of them.
stop
I
you.
mean,
I heard a rumor, and let me know if this is true. I heard if you own IX Studio albums, it makes you sexier to the
well,
opposite sex.
absolutely,
Is that true?
absolutely. I mean, look at me. I own all the X Studios albums collection.
That explains those funny feelings I have.
Exactly.
yeah. And they don't say, it's not called a stocking thinner or something like that. It's a stocking stuffer. You got to
All of
stuff
them,
it
and
full.
they're
You got to put
virtual,
all
so
the
you
albums
don't
in.
actually have to make a run in your stocking either when you make these things. It's a wonderful thing, and all the albums are affordable, and they're all available at xstudios.net. Eventually, we'll get like everybody who's on Tangents on that label instead of just Justin and I. So when these guys you guys know it's true that these two dudes, that Jeff and Christoph, are whoring us out. It must be quality because they're not representatives of X Studios yet.
Yep. Well, Jeff came up with the name of a band last Thursday, so we have to make a song for the name of this band so we can own the name of this band.
What's the name of the band?
Jeff, do you remember? Because I do not.
It's a play. Well, okay. So this does require a small bit of explanation. So there is a band called Combi Christ.
Sure, we know who they are.
They belong in a garbage can someplace.
Oh yes.
And Christoph made a very good, not exactly cover, song inspired by
It's
one of
called
their
This Is
tracks.
Shit.
It's very good. So I was making a joke about their name, and it was something like Divide Devil, but like, so Combi Christ is a portmanteau smashed all together, and so I was trying to to invert it.
Yeah. Although I read it
There
Divide
you have
Evil.
it.
Divide Devil.
That works
You
too.
see that?
Look, it goes. You just whichever way you take it. I've heard it
Kind of
both
like
ways.
Nitzreb,
Any is fine.
Nitzreb. Doesn't matter, just say it.
Right? Or those
Yeah.
two Front 242 albums that just were numbers and then a word. That was
Yeah, and they actually printed them
Yep.
wrong because it was supposed to be Up Evil and
Yep.
Fuck Off, and they screwed it up and
it was
reversed
fuck up evil and evil off.
I always thought they were trying to fuck with
Yep.
me. I didn't realize that was a.
I don't know. They could say it was on purpose. It wasn't. Somebody
Exactly.
fucked up. Just like there's a lot of Skinny Puppy albums that were misprinted, and that's all fuck ups.
Or
That wasn't-
my copy of Last Rites that actually started 20 seconds into the album.
Nope,
40 seconds,
40.
yes.
I own that. That's the original pressing, and I
Same
have
here.
that too.
So speaking of
Wow.
X Studios, Solvington says he bought a Subsoma album and instantly lost 20 pounds. Slaughterhouse got money added to his Social Security check.
I read that. It must be
These
true.
things can happen to
Did
you.
he lose that 20 pounds because he paid in pennies or?
Oh, and if the Federal Trade Commission is listening, I don't know any of these people. I don't even know why I'm here.
I've never heard of some before. What are you talking about?
But the FCC is listening. For the record, my name is Jefferson.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I'm Justin Smith.
Yada yada. Yeah.
And finally tonight, Roland, in all their wisdom, has released the Jupiter X XM 2.0 firmware, which brings remote Roland cloud control from your Android and iOS device and introduces new vocal designer modal expansion. So basically what this allows you to do is this allows you to connect your Roland X or XM through a little dongle, which will cost you $95, so you can install your Zen stuff directly on there without using a computer. So that's cool. So you need to buy the WC1. Yeah.
They're just taking a page from iLock.
How is it Behringer had a fucking Wi-Fi stack?
I know, right? Yeah. Behringer has a Wi-Fi stack. You could attach your DeepMind via Wi-Fi and update your shit off of that. Yeah, you can use it as a controller.
You can use a controller.
It works mostly okay. And they also add the capability of you to install the Vocal Designer modal expansion, which is a vocal synthesizer known from the VP and vSynth keyboards. It gives you the option to transform any other sound with the engine. It's a pretty powerful little thing. If you are a Roland Cloud subscriber, you get it for free. If you are not, you have to pay $150 for it.
Jeez.
So for the low price of $12,000, you can have something that is almost certain to be adequate.
And
yeah, I mean, not to mention that the Jupiter X is fucking expensive by itself. I'm guessing this works on the XM too. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Oh man, we're all I don't know.
So they updated their firmware to allow you to buy more shit for your $5,000 synthesizer.
Well, yeah.
As a Kurzweil owner, I can't say.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, fair enough. But I mean, the thing is, back when the Kurzweil, especially the K2000, was made, I mean, that stuff was expensive to make.
And it was ahead of its time. But I'm sure the Jupiter X was also expensive to make.
Yeah. I want to like this thing. I mean, it sounds pretty cool and everything, and we were talking about this earlier in the show. I suppose if I was a live gigger, this would be a more appealing package because you can do lots of different stuff, and it sounds good enough, as my mother used to say about guitar tuning, it's good enough for folk music, so I don't know, it's one of those things. The vocal stuff sounds good. It did remind me of the vSynth, which sometimes I do shed a slight tear that I had to sell the rack mount version, especially consider it's double in price since I sold it, because every I don't know, it's like the new hip cool thing is to want stuff like the vSynth, but it made room for my Iridium, so I'm not too sad about it. But yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty cool. Sounds cool. Sounds like a vocoder. They're trying to sell it 6 ways to Sunday as being one demo that I heard, from a Roland person, and one I didn't. They're like, oh, it does all this crazy stuff. To me, Isotope Vocal Synth does some crazy stuff. This is good. This is okay.
Yeah, I got plenty of shit that does some of those things. In the comments, Slaughterhouse says, I simply cannot relate to Roland's modern offering. Selvignan says, Roland makes capable platforms for your expression, so it's crap. Selvignan does not like to mince words. Yep.
Well, can't
so that's all of our news for
now. There's just something about the Roland user interface, which is just an incredible turn-off.
No, I agree. I think that,
I mean, it's a really powerful engine, and you're never going to get into it. It's just, they're difficult.
And for what they're charging for the Jupiter X, you would think it would feel like shit. And it's built cheap. It
looks pretty.
Same build quality as their Era stuff and everything like that. That plasticky.
Oh, and I hate the quality of the Era.
Yeah.
Really? I haven't actually put my hands on one
Yeah.
of them.
Oh man, it feels.
I mean, no,
Yeah.
the X, the Era stuff I have, but the Jupiter X I haven't ever
Yeah,
played in person.
I
Yep.
played the XM at NobCon.
I played the X and the XM, and they both
it's
feel
plastic.
like that, you know, that really cheap ass
Wow.
feel to it. For how much they're charging
That's
for literally a circuit
crazy.
board in a big box.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's the System 8, which
I get it for the new Korg digital stuff, in the sense. I mean, but it feels lightweight and kind of plasticky, but it doesn't
Right.
feel junky. The knobs feel good.
Mhm.
The sliders feel good. The keys are nice and responsive, but it's just very lightweight.
But I want my synth to feel like
But-
I could fucking pick it up and throw it at somebody and it'll hurt them. I know Sullivan says I don't need horse
And
armor
yeah,
in my
right.
synths, but I like having horse armor in my synths. I like the fact that my Prophet 6 feels like it costs as much as it did.
Yeah, I want to feel like it's gonna break or
Yeah.
melt on me.
That's exactly how I feel about the Super 6. It is hilariously
Yeah.
overbuilt. It's like this stupid mixer that I have too, which is also hilariously overbuilt. But it's I want this stuff to feel like professional things are heavy. And if it's not
Yeah,
heavy,
exactly.
it isn't professional.
And speaking of being heavy, that's all our news for this week. We did. We made
Wow,
it.
we made it.
So I think
We did it.
that was our 19th episode. We're coming up to almost to the point where Tangents is old enough to drink. I think we should all get rip-roaringly drunk for our 21st episode and just vomit over everything. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that's not a good idea.
I like that. That's
Christoph's like, I'm there.
It's
Right?
performance art.
okay.
I know.
Ready, man.
So
Tell you
our
what.
next show is going to be in December 1st. So there you go. And for the Americans out there, I hope you enjoy your day of overeating on the 25th. And, you know, hanging out with your family. Sorry about that. And all that other stuff. Make sure to, if you're in a clear space tomorrow night at 1:01 a.m. is the lunar eclipse. So go check that out too. Yeah, so that's all I got. Christoph, Jeff, Justin, it's always lovely having you guys on. I love
Always a blast
All
hanging
right, so
out.
the next Tangents is going to be December
Yes.
1st. All right, I cannot make it. Hopefully, Total Robin will be in my square.
Well, we shall find out. Toto Robin must fight for it. No, I'm just kidding. Toto Robin would fucking kick everyone's asses.
Tune in 2 weeks and find out who will
if-
be in Corner Square.
Exactly. That'll be exciting because Christoph will be off doing mysterious things.
Galaxy's Edge in Florida.
There you go. I'll have to discuss that with
Oh,
you
look at
after the show. Actually, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on it because I went to it and I have thoughts. Anyway, everyone, thanks for hanging out with us. We are going to be heading over to Octonode. He's great. Go feed his virtual fish. He's a lot of fun to listen to and really chill music sometimes. I'm a big fan. So we're going to go ahead and I'm not going to actually type host. I'm going to actually type in raid because I did that last time.
Yes.
Learn your shit, Andrew. All right. Technology is working. All right. We are ready to do the raid. So see you over at Octonode site. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.